How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So this one mistake is probably the cause of, I don't know, 80%, 90% of all crashes. I can almost guarantee it. So the problem is, when you go to the brakes, if you need to slow down for a corner, when you go through an intersection, every single time you go to touch those brakes, the problem is people go from 0 to 20%, 0 to 40%, and that's grabbing. Grabbing is the problem. You can use the front brake, rear brake, both brakes, start with the front, transition to the rear. You could do anything you want to with the brakes, even in the middle of the turn at lean angle, no problem whatsoever. As long as when you first touch those brakes, it's soft. Always, 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 always. Literally, there's no time I could think of when you would want to grab the brakes, ever. Even if you're trying to stop as fast as you can, the very first touch on those brakes is soft, easy touch on the brakes. Then you could build up the pressure to however much you need. So I'm going for a corner right here, right? I'm gonna go to the brakes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5% was enough to slow me down. I don't need to keep on squeezing. But if I would have went straight to 20%, that'd be way too damn much. And if I'm in the middle of the lean and you go way too hard on the brakes, it's a grab. Grabbing is the cause of almost all issues. You go too fast into a corner, you need to slow down, roll off the throttle. If that's not enough to slow you down, you need to pick up some brake pressure, start with 2% brakes. If that's not enough, go to 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Right? Start soft. Don't just go right to it. Just like they say in champ school, right? The tires, they can handle a tremendous load. You could really freaking brake hard and be leaned over. Everybody does it all the time, right? Talk to any high-level rider. You're looking at professional racers on the track day riders. You know you could brake very hard while leaned over. Does that mean you have to every single time you're on the public roads? Obviously not, but it can be done. What the problem is when people start crashing all the damn time is they grab the brakes. And this is the real problem in my world, which is social media, YouTube world. This is what happens. So I'm a random motorcycle rider, and I just so happen to make YouTube videos. So there's a lot of YouTubers out there who ride motorcycles, and those people, somebody says this, hey man, don't ever use the brakes in the turn while leaned over ever, because I did that and I crashed, so don't ever do that. Now that person happens to have, whatever, 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So people think truth is a popularity contest. It's not. Truth is not a democracy. It doesn't matter how many people believe it, how many people listen to the same thing, it does not make it more or less true. What that YouTuber guy who just rides motorcycles should be saying, if they knew what they were talking about, is look, I made the mistake by grabbing the brakes, and that is why I crashed. If I would have squeezed the brakes, if I would have started slowly on the brakes, maybe I still would have crashed, who knows, but more than likely, probably not. I probably would have been way better off. But I grabbed the brakes, overloading the tire. That's why I crashed. I learned, I'm still talking as this random person, I learned through high-level courses, taking champ school, American Super Camp, you know, all these different courses, I learned that you can use the brakes even very aggressively, really squeeze, but as long as you're squeezing the brakes and going in a smooth fashion, on and off the brakes, like a hill, on the brakes, off the brakes, on the brakes. If you do that, there's no problem. But once you start going 0 to 20%, 10, 20, 30, 90%, like whenever you grab, it's always bad. You start riding like the brakes, like a heartbeat, on the brakes, off the brakes, on the brakes, off the brakes, like on, off, like that's when problems happen. So no matter what you do, whenever you go to the brakes, start off soft. Now what's happening to the bike when you do that? When you first touch the brakes, you tell me, what happens? What is the sensation of the motorcycle? What does the motorcycle do when you first touch the brakes? What happens? Well, you start to slow down, the motorcycle starts to go forward, you start to lean forward. Why is that? The front suspension is collapsing, everything is going down, causing your weight to go forward, the motorcycle's weight to go, everything starts to move forward, right? Now, just like they say again in champ school, wait for the weight. When you first touch those brakes very softly, you wait for the weight to go forward, to get all the weight pushing down, less rake and trail, get the weight onto that front tire. Then if you want to, you could really build that pressure up to a tremendous amount of brake pressure pretty much whenever you need it, as long as you go to it first softly and you just have a smooth increase of pressure and you're not grabbing anything. There's no problem if you do that. Now, let's say, I know what you're thinking, well, if there's a car that pull out in front of me, I can't be on the brakes super soft and super slow and it just doesn't make sense and blah, blah, blah. Sure you can. This all takes 1/10 of a second. So it's there's a fine line between a grab and then you first touch the brakes soft for that little bit just to get the weight to go forward, and then you build up the pressure. So you have to have discipline, and that's why new riders, this is the most common mistake people do. This is the most common mistake that I see everybody do everywhere. It's just the abruptness of their controls. They're on the brakes, off the brakes, they're grabbing everything. Everything is 0 to 10. Every time they touch the brake lever, 10%. Off the brakes, 10%, 0%. They just let go of the brakes or get on the brakes, off the brakes, on the brakes. And you could tell, sometimes I could tell when riding behind people because their brake leg is going on, off, and I could literally see the bike suspension bounce up and down. And then they ask me silly questions like, man, I don't know what's wrong with my throttle. I'm like, well, why do you ask that? It's like, well, the bike's just jumping around everywhere. Well, first, I could hear your bike because you have the silly exhaust for no reason. I could hear you going on and off the throttle, and I could physically see the bike go down and up and down and up like a light switch. And I see your brake light go on and off in unison with that. You're going from 0 to 10 to 0 to 30 to 0 to 25 back to 40. Like, you're going on and off the brakes, dude. Stop doing that. You need to go to the brakes very softly. Everything is a hill. On the brakes, then off the brakes. Don't just let go. Dump the brakes. No. Most common mistake people do, and it's probably the cause of almost all crashes. No matter where you are in the corner, no matter what happens, people grab those brakes, and that is the problem. If you would have squeezed the brakes and just had that little bit of soft touch in the very beginning and not just panicked and grabbed a whole bunch, that will save you a lot of heartache in the future. That probably could have saved, who knows, 80% of crashes. And what I mean by crashes like this, of course, I mainly mean like you're out here riding the twisty roads. But this also means like a car pulls out in front of you, you're going through an intersection, and you just get on the brakes way too abruptly. You're doing slow speed practice and you stomp on the rear brake, you grab the front brake, it's gonna cause you to crash. You can use the front brake by itself, 100% front brake, you could use while doing U-turns, slow speed turning, no problem. As long as you go to the brakes softly. I can start doing U-turns in the middle of the road right now if there was no car behind me, right? Just start doing U-turns, flipping around, and I'm using only the front brake. I'm only using maybe 3% front brake, and it's very, very soft touch. There's no issue with that. But people who say never use the front brake while doing U-turns or any low speed maneuvers, they're just a limited, ignorant rider. They just don't know enough to understand. Of course you can use the front brake while doing U-turns. It only depends on how you use it, which is the cause of most crashes, which is the whole point of this video. Stop grabbing the damn brakes. That is the lesson. Stop grabbing the brakes. Squeeze and unsqueeze is the technique. Grabbing the brakes will always cause issues no matter where you are on any bike in any situation. Stop grabbing the damn brakes. Did I say that yet? Write this down 100 times in your notebook. Stop grabbing the brakes. The brakes is a orange, right? It's squeeze and unsqueeze. Squeeze and unsqueeze is how you use the brakes at any time in any environment everywhere. You can squeeze fast, like if you're trying to stop as fast as you can, no problem. Just don't grab. Go to my website, motojitsu.com/courses, to find the links to a whole bunch of courses and get into some high-level training and to keep on learning, right? And just keep in mind, I've said this over and over again, my videos are absolutely worthless unless you go get on the bike and practice. And I recommend go ride 3,000 miles a month, minimum. Stop grabbing the brakes, go practice, go experiment, and I'll talk to you guys later.